What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing the size doesn't matter subscriber challenge, where the aim is to win with the lowest CP team in the Open Great League. On the right hand side of the screen you can see the exact scoring system for this challenge, and it was done this way to ensure people use full teams of low CP Pokemon, roughly around the same sort of CP range, rather than just using a 10 CP sacrificial Pokemon that drastically lowers the average CP of the team. Now usually I would only showcase the top 10 highest scoring battles for these challenges, but the difference between 11th and 10th place was just a single point, and I realized this challenge was way harder than any of the previous challenges, so I do want to reward people who have sacrificed a lot of time and elo for this challenge to submit a battle, and instead I'll be showcasing every battle that scored over 200 points. Also, I do want to say, let's not be too harsh on the elo of the submissions. These battlers are clearly a lot better than the elo range they're playing in, well, at least for the most part, but to win with such a huge CP disadvantage, you need incredibly favorable matchups, which can take a lot of attempts to find. Now, don't forget, I'll be announcing next week's subscriber challenge at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for that. But with that being said, let's get into the question of the day. If you had the opportunity to ask your own question to my subscribers and myself for the question of the day, what would you want to ask? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so heading into the first battle, and I have made a change to the graphics, so now you can actually see the in-game name of the trainers for each battle in the top right-hand side of the screen. We're leading with a Wobbuffet, which is a very bulky Pokemon despite the low CP. Obviously, its design is based off a punching bag, and you can see why we're able to sponge hits very comfortably. The opponent swaps into Morpeko, hoping maybe to catch a Mirror Coat, but we full send the return there, dealing huge damage. And now, honestly, we can just shield this up, go for a full counter farm down before the opponent does reach another charge move, and we're able to do exactly that. But not only that, we're going to come out one counter away from another return as the opponent does come back in with their Gastrodon. Return, gonna grab a shield from the opponent, and at this point we are going to no shield this. The opponent goes for an Earthquake, and I think that might be a legacy move, correct me if I'm wrong there, but that is crazy to see. The opponent then comes in with Mana Buzz. We come in with our underleveled Shiny Shadow Marwile, underleveled specifically for this challenge, of course, to get the low CP. We're now going to go for a Power Punch. We're also running Ice Fang, so boosting up our attack there, dealing big damage with those Ice Fangs. But unfortunately, because we are underleveled, Dark Pulse probably gets the KO from that range, so we do end up shielding, but the opponent baits with an Aerial Ace. We're going to go for another Power Punch here. Power Punch doesn't quite get the KO, but it should put them into farm down range, even for a Shadow Golem in the back. Dark Pulse takes out the Marwile, but Astonish is going to get the resisted farm down there. The opponent comes back in with their Gastrodon. We can go straight for a Shadow Punch here. Shadow Punch does big damage, two more Astonishes, takes out the Gastrodon, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, and I do want to mention these battles are in order of points. Someone did mention that maybe I put them in a different order there, maybe to add suspense, but I figured like people can calculate how much each battle is going to score anyway, so it doesn't really add that much suspense anyways. But here we're going to see an underleveled Medicham still hanging in there pretty well up against this Gastrodon as we no shield the next charge move. The opponent fires off back-to-back body slams. We can go for Dynamic Punch, and because it costs less energy this season, we should actually be able to reach a third Dynamic Punch before Gastrodon fully farms us down. So Medicham, underleveled, still takes out the Gastrodon in the one shield scenario before the opponent comes in with a Golisopod. You can see we tried to swap out there, doesn't go through, but either way we're now going to come in with our Toxapex, just completely wall the energy here. The opponent goes for an Exeter, that is resistant damage. Aqua Jet would also be resisted, but it does do slightly more damage, so they definitely should go for that if they're running Aqua Jet, but they go for another resisted X-Scissor before swapping into a Charger Bug. With full sending Sludge Wave, it doesn't do much damage because of the CP difference, but we're going to come in with our final Pokemon, a Crocodile. At this point, we should actually still live a Discharge, but again, they go for a resisted X-Scissor. What is their obsession with these resisted X-Scissors? I don't know, maybe they're doing their own sort of weird challenge, but either way, we can fire for Crunch. Crunch does not get a debuff, unfortunately, but we still reach a second Crunch here. Crunch, gonna connect, it does big damage, it puts them into one Incinerate farm down range, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we've got a very spicy triple level 50 team here. Very cool to see. I did not specify that you needed XLs, but this trainer is definitely flexing on the opponents here. We're now going to swap, try to catch a move. The opponent does hold onto the energy, and they've got a lot of energy, so they go for an Aerial Ace there. They are still over farming for some reason, allowing us to reach an Icy Wind here. An Icy Wind gets the KO up against Serperior, so they wasted a ton of energy there. They're going to come in with a Zoom Reel. We're going to overfarm ever so slightly, going for a Fly, and Fly does respectable damage up against the Azumarill, but they're able to fully bubble farm us down. At this point, we're going to wait out the switch shot, come in with the Flabébé, and Flabébé did receive a buff this season, with Dazzling Gleam, of course, costing less energy, dealing less damage as well, but it's just a much better move. We can go for the Dazzling Gleam after no shielding the Ice Beam, swapping into our Cubone, our final Pokemon, and we're definitely going to have to start shielding here. The opponent's going to go and fire off another Ice Beam, but their final Pokemon is going to be Morpeko, and things are looking great for us. Despite the CP difference, Cubone should have this battle wrapped up here. The opponent is going to throw not on the best timing. We're going to no-shield this. It's just a Psychic Fangs. We tanked that incredibly comfortably. We go for one Mind Slap, firing off on good timing here, going for that Bone Club. Bone Club grabs the final shield. We're actually able to reach another charge move before Morpeko throws. Bone Club actually forces the opponent to just concede the match, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we've got two-time Battle of Spies world champion Robert Digioff, and you can see why he's able to win Battle of Spies competitions. This is an insane team here, triple XL, I assume triple level 50, and like, what even are these Pokemon? Gothita here, we're going to come in up against the Azumarill. We've debuffed them as the opponent did actually catch very nicely an Icy Wind onto Azumarill, but we can now go for a Psyshock here. Psyshock getting buffed this season actually doesn't really help its pacing with Confusion that much until you reach a third Psyshock, I believe. So Psyshock number 2 does get Azu fairly low. At this point, we're happy to let the Gothita go down. Ice Beam takes us out there. We're going to come back in with Vanillite, and the opponent does throw a charge move. At this point, we have to start shielding. We're going to shield that. We are just barely able to reach an Icy Wind before they can Dragon Breath farm us down. And now we're going to swap into our final Pokemon, a Snorunt. We are going to no-shield probably as we have debuffed their attack. It's just a Body Slam. Doesn't do too much damage there. We get the Powder Snow farm down, and let's see, the opponent comes back in with Azumarill. We're going to overfarm here, but we need something incredibly weak to Ice in the back to win this game. We are seeing a lot of lag here as the opponent is going to be taken out by the Avalanche. And what is that final Pokemon? It's a Jumpluff, and that is huge for us, of course. Double weak to the Ice typing, but a very bulky Pokemon. So Avalanche grabs the final shield. Snorunt able to reach a last-second Avalanche here. And, of course, Avalanche is going to actually not get the KO, so we swap into our Vanillite, get the Snipe with the Powder Snow damage, and take that game. Into next battle, we're going to see a Togekiss in the lead up against a Drifblim. So, obviously, if this Drifblim was fully powered up, this wouldn't be too bad for us. But because it's not, honestly, can we even reach a second Icy Wind? We are just barely able to do so. But the opponent actually catches onto Quagsire. So, very good catch there. Honestly, we probably should have swapped out at this point. We do stay in, realizing they can still farm us down before we reach another charge move. So eventually, we swap into our Shadow Ursaring here. We are going to now fire off a Swift. Swift is going to do quite a lot of damage, actually. Swift puts them into range where we can probably shield and then go for a full Shadow Claw farm down. So they go for the Mud Bomb there. We can commit to the farm down, but the opponent actually swaps out into Lucario, trying to snipe. But we reach a close combat, and close combat gets the one-shot up against Lucario. We get the Shadow Claw farm down up against the Quagsire, and now we've got Carbink to completely wall this Togekiss. The opponent going to go for a Flamethrower, which is resisted damage. This is going to be a very comfortable Rock Throw farm down up against the Togekiss, and we're able to take that game. Excuse me there. Into next battle, we've got a Shadow Galvantula into a Blaziken. So, obviously, we are resisting the counter damage. Great that they're not on Fire Spin, but still taking a lot of damage here. We're going straight for Cross Poison, grabbing a shield and boosting up our attack. So, even though we don't reach a second Cross Poison, we've done quite a lot of damage there. The opponent's going to swap into a Gengar on Hex. So, minimal fast move pressure. We can come in with our Sableye, shield the first charge move, as the opponent randomly goes for a Focus Blast there. That was so unnecessary. We can shield that up, and we got a very interesting moveset here of Return and Dazzling Gleam. So we go for Dazzling Gleam. The opponent comes in with a Steel Wing Archeops, a very interesting team on the opponent's end, but Dazzling Gleam gets the one shot there to come back in with the Blaziken, but it's game over, so the opponent just concedes the match. Into next battle, we've got a Shadow Marwell up against a Shadow Dragonite. Great lead for us. The opponent safe swaps into Jellicent, and things are going great for us, of course. We're going to swap into our Shiftry, go straight for a Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade does decent damage there, and the opponent is going to fire off a Charge Beam. Now, honestly, because of the CP difference, Shadow Ball probably takes us out there, so we're now going to overfarm. Unfortunately, lagging a ton, and that is really unfortunate because we miss out on like several fast moves. We could have outpaced them to the Charge Move, but now forced to use both shields. Suddenly, this is looking a lot harder for us. We go for a Leaf Blade. It does get the KO there, but let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent actually comes in with their Sand Slash for some reason. Of course, Shift Tree could have been double moved and have foul play, so maybe the opponent doesn't want to take the damage onto their Dragonite, but either way, this is fine with us. We can go for Leaf Blade number 2. Gonna be no shielded this time around. Doesn't do much damage. Of course, we can now come in with our Scrafty, counter-sitting for double super effective. We swap back into Marwell. We're gonna get the farm down, and so the opponent just concedes the match. Into next battle, we're gonna see a Shadow Quagsire into Vikavolt. We will outpace them to the first charge move, but the opponent gonna say swap into Swampert, and we can come in with Decidueye. We're actually gonna no-shield Sludge. We're able to tank that, honestly, a lot more comfortably than I was expecting. We tried to commit to a full farm down, just barely missing out, and we're actually just gonna fully sacrifice Decidueye. That is an interesting decision, but we come in with the Quagsire. They come in with a Vikavolt, and we are going for an Acid Spray bait here. Acid Spray grabs a shield from the opponent, and at this point, we are going to shield as well. The opponent fires off the fly there. We're going to go for one mud shot and then go for another Acid Spray bait. This is very risky, but it does grab the final shield from the opponent. So at this point, we are going to shield here, as the opponent is going to go for a discharge this time around before swapping into a Typhlosion. Excuse me there, Mud Bomb does big damage. We swap into Magnezone, but this is just going to be a Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch is resisted. We're able to Volt Switch, farm them down, coming out with a Wild Charge loaded. That is literally perfect for us. And Wild Charge, despite being resisted, takes out the Vikavolt, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we're going to see Shadow Kyogre into Blissey, and we've got a triple Shadow legendary team. This is crazy. The stat product difference between Kyogre at 890 CP and a 1427 Blissey is honestly going to be insane. We swap into Shadow Heatran. We're actually going to shield this. They can only throw resistant moves. They go for a Psychic. Honestly, Psychic would still do quite a lot of damage in this matchup. You can see we are unfortunately running Fire Blast. We overfarm like well over 100 energy for some reason. Fire Blast grabs a shield from the opponent. At this point, we kind of have to let this move go through. The opponent goes for a Psychic, and that actually takes us out. That is so embarrassing, Heatran, bro. What are you doing? We're going to come in with our Shadow Groudon, and we have actually used Elite TMs on both Groudon and Kyogre to have Origin Pulse and Precipice Blades. Precipice Blades grabs the final shield. The opponent double shielding a Blissey. Like, what the heck is this battle so far? We shield up the Psychic. We're going to bank the energy, come in with our Kyogre, get that full Waterfall farm down, and the opponent comes in with a Hitmonchan, but they're about to be hit with an Origin Pulse. It gets the one shot. They come in with their final Pokemon, a Klinklang, and we've got Precipice Blades here to hit for super effective damage. And of course, it's going to easily one-shot the Klinklang despite the CP difference, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, great lead for us. The opponent's going to say swap into Morpeko, and we respond with a Shadow Quagsire. Going to no-shield the first move as they go for a Psychic Fangs there. Honestly, Psychic Fangs is going to be quite problematic for us because now they've debuffed our defense, and they might be able to Thunder Shock farm us down here. But either way, we grab a shield from the opponent. We're going to be forced to shield here. We need at least a few more Mud Shots to get off up against this Morpeko, and we are going to go straight for the Mud Bomb number 2. Mud Bomb probably going to be shielded by the opponent, and they do double shield, but they can commit to a fully resisted Thunder Shock farm down. Now we come in with our Talonflame. We're going to shield up the Aura Wheel there as the opponent is going to swap out into a Galarian Moltres. Should actually swap out straight away into Shadow for Alligator, going straight for Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon does some decent damage there, and the opponent doesn't overfarm or farm us down. Instead, going for the Ancient Power, getting the KO. We can come back in with the Talonflame, and we are going immediately for that Flame Charge. Flame Charge is going to get the KO from this range. It boosts up our attack. They come back in with more Peko just to be fast move farm down, and we're able to reach a boosted Brave Bird up against Serperior. Brave Bird takes out the Serperior, and we're able to take that game. Into next battle, we've got Spinder up against a Jellicent, so this would usually be a very good matchup for us. However, with the CP difference, and especially since they're on Bubble rather than Hex, means that actually it's probably not that comfortable for us. We're going to shield. They go for an Ice Beam for some reason there. Excuse me once again, and the opponent is going to shield the first move. We're actually able to make it to another charge move here as the opponent doesn't throw straight away. Rock Tomb gonna be shielded by the opponent, so at this point we probably let the Spinder go down. Ice Beam does take us out despite being double debuff. We're now going to come in with a Wobbuffet here, and I believe we're on Charm, otherwise counters would not do that much damage. We're now going to swap, catch the resisted Ice Beam onto a Shadow Bastion. It's pretty clear at this point this is just a single move Jellicent, otherwise they would have gone for Surf or Shadow Ball up against the Wobbuffet, but either way, Ice Beam doesn't do much damage. We get that full farm down, and the opponent comes in with a Pelipper. Now, of course, we're going straight for the Stone Edge, dealing big damage up against Pelipper, and if this is their best response to a Shadow Bastiodon, we're definitely just going to shoot up the Weather Ball, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Galvantula. Now, unfortunately, we would lose CMP in this matchup, so we're definitely going to swap into Wobbuffet, sponge the damage as they do reach a discharge. And these charms, honestly, are actually kind of chunking up against this Galvantula. The opponent goes for another discharge there. They're clearly not on lunge, otherwise they should be going for that. But either way, we can go straight for Mirror Coat. Mirror Coat does respectable damage. The opponent is going to be fully charmed, farmed down by the Wobbuffet. And we're able to take that game. Now going into the final battle of this video, leading with an 888 CP Carbink into a Talonflame. The opponent swaps into Blastoise. We come in with a Shadow Razor Leaf Victory Bell here. We're going to shield as the opponent goes for a Skull Bash, boosting up their defense, which doesn't help them as we're still able to get a full Razor Leaf farm down and come out with an Acid Spray loaded. So the opponent comes back in with the Talonflame. We go for one Razor Leaf. We fire off the Acid Spray there. Acid Spray honestly does decent damage. It debuffs their defense, and these Rock Throws are absolutely shredding through this Talonflame. We're, of course, gonna no shield. They go for a Flame Charge, not doing much damage, and they've got more Peko in the back, and these Mud Slaps from a Shadow Mamoswine, despite the fact that this Mamoswine is below 900 CP, are absolutely chunking. We get the Mud Slap farm down, and at this point, they've got two shields, but there's nothing they can do, so the opponent allows us to farm them down, and we take that game. So here we have the final standings for the Size Doesn't Matter challenge, and incredibly 6 different trainers managed to score over 500 points for this challenge, which to me is absolutely incredible. You guys did way better than I was expecting, but massive congratulations to first place Bugaslav, finishing on 578 points. And I can now also announce next week's subscriber challenge, the No Bubbles challenge. Now, the aim for this challenge is to undercharge as many charge attacks as possible in a single battle while still emerging victorious. You'll earn 1 point for hitting a great, 2 points for hitting a nice, 3 points for hitting less than a nice, and 4 points for hitting literally no bubbles at all. You'll also earn 2 bonus points if an undercharge attack gets shielded, and you will earn double points for that move for an undercharge attack KOing a Pokemon. Now, for this week's challenge, you'll actually have the choice to submit in either the Spring Cup or the Ultra League, so it's up to you to decide which league you think is better suited for this challenge. Now, if you think any adjustments need to be made to the scoring system for next week's challenge, please let me know in the comments ASAP, as I'm open to making changes based on your feedback, but you need to be quick as I'll be officially announcing the challenge in a community post tomorrow. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.